We know what day it is. It's Emily Henry Day. I'm all dressed and I'm ready to go get my copy of Emily Henry's Funny Story. I'm going to Barnes & Noble. I put it on hold this morning, so I need to pick it up before work. So let's go. Read the first chapter of Funny Story. I took the cover off. I haven't taken like the dust jackets off of books in hardcover in a while, but this one kept slipping down, so I just took it off. But I just finished the first chapter. I didn't know really what the book was about before I bought it because like it was Emily Henry. I was gonna read it no matter what. But it's about this girl named Daphne, and she thought she had found like the love of her life and they were gonna get married. And the night of his bachelor party, something happened, everything changed. He dumped her the morning after his bachelorette party for his platonic best friend, Petra. Now, Daphne lives with Petra's ex. Daphne's ex, what a convoluted story. Daphne's ex is now with Petra, and Daphne now lives with Petra's ex. Crazy story, okay? And what I love about Emily Henry's books, I'm realizing, and she did this with her last book, Happy Place, it goes back and forth between present and the past. So like I'm on chapter 2 right now, and it's titled Back in April, Before I Knew I Needed to Leave. So I'm assuming this is chronicling kind of like the end of her relationship and then talking about presently, because the first chapter is titled 180 days, 8 days until I can leave. So that's like leave her apartment. And then now it goes back to April. It says before I knew I needed to leave. And I'm assuming leave the current relationship she was in, but we'll see. It has some tropes that I really like. I love a roommate trope because another book was written by Rosie Danan called The Roommate, and I really loved that, like their banter in that and that kind of like roommate situation. So that's a similar situation in Funny Story, where now Daphne lives with this roommate that's a guy. And it's funny because he's a little bit disheveled. She's very much put together and he's not. And so I think it'll be interesting if this is the guy that like she's gonna now fall in love with. I think the roommate situation is fun. It also has like two scorned exes of exes like getting together, which I think is an interesting trope that I actually don't see a lot. And it's like they both have been scorned and now they're kind of in a way banding together, either go through this like traumatic experience, and that like brings people together in a weird way. And then also I believe there's like fake dating in this, from what I read in the description, and I love a good fake dating story. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm also going to see The Mummy today, so I don't know how much of this I can get through, but I'm going to read as much as possible before I get hungry and eat and need to leave. And I'll come back when I have more thoughts. It is like, I think like 2 days later since I started Funny Story. I ended up just getting it on my Kindle because I did not feel like holding the hardcover book. So I just got it on my Kindle. But I am like a little over 100 pages in to Funny Story and I really like it. I don't love it. I like it. I really, really loved Happy Place and I think this one is really cute. I feel like the situation that both Daphne and Miles are in is really shitty. You know, like to have your partners break up with each other, like break up with you, and then now like their partners are together. That seems like an impossible situation. I'm really digging Miles because to me, he just seems like a regular guy. Like we're getting to know him and he's like a little scruffy and you know, when we first meet him, he seems like he's a stoner and he's just like not really going anywhere with his life. But we start to find out more and more about him. We find out that he works at this cute place, this winery called Cherry Hill, and he's like their food buyer. So he knows a lot about different produce and things like that. And I just feel like that kind of thing is very sweet. And like, he does seem like a good guy, but we get this idea that like he's super sweet with Daphne, but I always am like, okay, but we don't really know how he was with Petra. Like he could have been a completely different person. Him and Petra have been together, I think, for 3 years or something like that. Things happen over 3 years. The history that you have with somebody could change your relationship with them. So we don't really know how he was with Petra. He seems like super sweet with Daphne. And again, Daphne's like a new girl. So I do think he is a sweet person. I need to find out more about him and I will as the story goes on. So far, I really like him. Daphne, I think, is very, very closed off because she's like moved around a lot. So she's not very trusting of a lot of people. Being in this like relationship or this fake relationship with Miles is like new for her because she just thinks he's like the nicest person ever. And I'm like, girl, has nobody ever been nice to you? Like that makes me sad, you know? And you think about her relationship with Peter and how she says like they went to the gym together, they have wheatgrass shots together. It was very like scheduled, regimented relationship. And it seemed like she never really got a chance to like be herself. So I think this kind of new whatever with Miles is like maybe now she's not with Peter and now she is finally discovering like who she is, which I think is very sweet. One thing that Emily Henry does very well, and I've read this before in other books, one thing I love about romance in general is I love a good dialogue. I love books with good dialogue and good banter, but which I think this book has good banter. It's funny, the things that they say to each other. I'm just like cracking up. But what I really love is the subtle moments that are outside the banter. The night after like Miles and her and Daphne have this like drunken night, whatever, nothing happens, like they just have fun together. And the next morning he has a breakfast sandwich and he like dumps the bag out on the table and he like slides a breakfast sandwich towards her. And then he like unwraps it for her because she's like so like drunk or whatever. He unwraps it for her, he like feeds it to her and then puts it down. And just like little things like that. They're drinking milkshakes and she's like, my mouth is on fire. So he like grabs the milkshake and like gives it to her. And I don't know, it's like sweet, like little things like that. And he brought her coffee and like, just like, I feel like he's like almost like an active service guy because he like does things for her, which I think is very sweet. Those just like little tiny details, which sometimes you can just read over, but I always love the tiny little details that an author puts. They're talking about a cat and he's like, oh my God, that would be so cute. Outside the dialogue, it says like he lit up with joy, or like just like little things like that where it talks about either the look on someone's face or just a little subtle act of like, oh, he grabbed my hand, or just like little things like that. I don't know what it is, but I love that in books, in romance books in particular, because I think romance books do it very well. And I feel like Funny Story is doing that really well, where there's just like these little things that you could almost miss, but it's just like the subtle little acts, and I think it's very cute. I'm going to continue reading before I have to go to work. I have to leave in like an hour. It's 11:44 right now, and I have to leave at 1 o'clock. So I'm gonna see how much I can read before I have to get ready and then head on out. one thing that bothers me about people in general, and Peter, her ex, is like a prime example of that. Him loving someone else, to me, is like, yes, it sucks, but Daphne can bounce back from that eventually. It will crush her, which it does, because they're about to get married. But the problem I have with him doing that is the way that he went about it. The night of his bachelorette party is like the night he breaks up with her, and then just basically is like, you have 2 weeks to move out. No explanation, no like, I'm sorry. It was very, like, to me, very cut and dry. And it's like, bitch, there are somebody else's feelings involved in this, and I feel like that moment he's just being super selfish. And I get it, he's in love with Petra, so he's like, I just want to start a life with her, whatever, you know, they've been friends forever. But it's like, you're also completely changing and disrupting someone else's life. You can go be with Petra, but like, just remember, there's somebody else that you've been with for 5 years that you are now completely fucking up their entire life. And yeah, she can bounce back for it, but like, some compassion and empathy has to come in there. And in that moment, it doesn't. And now Peter's trying to like apologize. And it's like, okay, thanks. Like, after you've gotten some time to like really think about what you've done, now you're like, I still care about you. Like, okay, fuck off. Fuck off. And then he has the audacity to like comment on like, I know it's just easy to just like be with someone because you don't want to be alone. Like, Peter, the moment you decided to be with someone else, you lost all access to Daphne. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you have no grounds to stand on commenting on anything that she's doing now. She can do whatever the fuck she wants now, and you have no say in that. It doesn't matter if you care about her. Like, no. Like, you made your decision. So why do you feel as if now you need to comment on, oh, I know it's easy to maybe like be with someone because you feel alone? Like, bitch, let her do that if she wants. Like, just stop. Look, all I'm saying is be careful. That guy's a mess, and I don't want to see him drag you down. That's the thing. Like, we don't know that much about Miles, and that's what makes me nervous, because all the people around him seem to really like him, but we don't know that much about him. And she also is not that trusting because she doesn't know that much about him. But to have Peter be like, you don't know him, and like, you know, that guy's a mess. Like, Peter, you're also a mess. You're also messy. So no comments from you, please. Jesus, it's always nice to be reminded that your ex really was as big of an asshat as you remember him being. I always love a first kiss scene because I feel like sometimes your first kiss with someone can be so bad, but it can also be so good. And I feel like theirs started bad, but then got good. And I'm like giddy. It's so cute. She's like, yep. She's shooketh. Miles is really spitting facts right now to Daphne, and she's like, oh, he's jealous. And Miles is like, no, he made a really big leap and a really brash decision, and now the initial high is wearing off. Now he's like, oh shit, there's another person involved in what I did. It's like he's wondering if he did the right thing. That's what happens when you make rash decisions. I'm realizing I have not read a romance book in a while, and I'm realizing how much I miss romance. I don't know what it is. I just haven't been reading romance. I've been reading YA fantasy. So it's not set in like our world. I mean, except City of Bones. There's like demons and the stakes are so much higher, and like it's different reading romance. And I realized I have not read a good romance book in a while. And I forgot what it feels like to be like about like some romance thing, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to need to start reading romance again. I have an entire stack of romance books over there, and 3 romance books I have my eye on right now that I want to read. So we would be getting a romance vlog soon. Also, I'm reading on my Kindle right now, but the Kobo color was pre-ordered. So we may be seeing a different reading device next time I'm reading on my Kindle. Next time I'm reading on an e-reader, we might be seeing a different one. I'm excited for the color one though, because like I love annotating, and this black and white annotation, it just doesn't give me the same rush as like a colorful highlight does. And the Kobo color, I'll be able to highlight in color, and I am so excited about that. I let me get back to reading. I've gone off on a tangent. It's been a couple days and I've officially finished Funny Story by Emily Henry. I think I finished it maybe like 3 days ago, but I needed some time to like sit with it. And I think the more and more I think about it, the more and more I actually like it. I gave it, I think, a 4.5 stars because it is a really cute story, and I feel like what Emily Henry does well is like, there's always to me a middle ground with fantasy. With romance. There's the like very on the surface, just fun romance. Then there's like the really soul crushing romance, which in my opinion is what Kennedy Ryan writes. And then there's kind of like the middle ground, which is what Emily Henry writes, where she has cute story, but there is a little bit of emotion that comes with it. I'm not like soul crushed by her books, but there is emotion that I feel when I'm reading her books. With Happy Place, I definitely felt some emotions. I think I might have shed a tear, and I definitely shed a tear with Funny Story. It took till the very end to shed a tear, but I thought it was really cute. I think the main takeaway for me with this book is this book explores trauma that has trickled down from like your parents. And we all know trauma from your parents is hard to get over, and it's hard to get through, and it always shows up in relationships. You know, our main character, Daphne, she has trust issues trusting other people because she didn't really trust her father. And then the one person she did trust, Peter, he, you know, broke that trust in a huge way. And then we have Miles, the other main character, the male main character, and he has trust issues, but he does not know how to trust himself because when he was younger, his mother basically almost like gaslit him, and like everything that he did, like if he was sick, she would get mad at him and she would like blame him for everything, even if it wasn't like his fault or if it was something that he couldn't control. She would always get mad at him. So he could never trust his own feelings because she would always get so mad. And so for him, his whole defense mechanism was like everything needs to be fine. Nothing never needs to be out of place. So he never spoke about emotions. He never got so deep where things were not just fine. For him, everything was like surface level, and the relationships that they were in were helping them not have to ever go deeper. So Miles with Petra, like they were like in the moment now, always fun, just like everything was fine. And then with Peter and Daphne, like she doesn't really know herself at all. So she kind of just molded into this person that Peter wanted her to be. She would always change herself to appease everybody else around her, and she would kind of soak up the people around her, and she didn't really know herself and who she was. So I feel like the story is a lot about self-discovery, and I do believe that there are some things that you cannot work through unless you're in a relationship or exploring that, because some things don't come up unless you're actually like in that situation. And I feel like that's what's happening here, where they are exploring things that are coming up in this kind of like relationship that they're kind of having, and they know it's like not a good idea because they were both brokenhearted and they both have things they need to work through, but a lot of times they don't want to face those things. I thought the inclusion of trust with yourself and with other people was very personal for me, and I really liked it. I thought that the story also was cute and funny at the same time, as like at the end, it's like, oh, like it was so sweet. And with Daphne, like she spent so long being just the fiance of someone else that at the end she was like, I really like you, Miles, and I want to be with you, but I need to live by myself. I need to have my own things. I need to be my own person. And that was a moment for her, just a moment for me too, of like pride, of like, yes, girl, like you can be independent and still be in this great relationship. Those things can go hand in hand, I think. And I realized Miles is a very acts of service person, so he would bring her food and things like that. And for her, like, that's good for her, but she also still needs to figure out who she is by herself. And I think their relationship is very cute, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I can't wait. I don't know what Emily Henry's gonna put out next, but I know that I still need to read Book Lovers, and I need to read People We Meet on Vacation, which is crazy that I haven't read her other two like contemporary romance books. And I know she has 2 YA books that I might check out. I've so far read 3 of her books. I started with Beach Read. I remember reading Beach Read during the pandemic. And then it's been, what, years, and I read Happy Place. I don't know why I didn't read her other books, because I like her books. I have them, but I just didn't read them. And then Happy Place, and now Funny Story. So I need to go back and read some of her older books. But I'm glad I read this, and now it's like, oh, where do we go from here? I guess I go back. That's where I go. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking around. Tell me what you thought of Funny Story. I feel like this book everybody was waiting for, and I think we all kind of loved it. I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about it. If you made it this far, put a little emoji in the comments. I'm trying to think what the emoji should be. Put a little book in the comments, because she's a librarian, and a little book and a little like wine glass, because he works at a bar and he knows a lot about wine. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you like this reading vlog. I kind of like doing the reading vlog of like an individual book. I thought that was something that I hadn't really done before. I always try to do more than one book. Thanks for sticking around, and make sure to follow the channel, because like I said, I love doing this. So until next time.